Today on the No City on the Sideline Dad podcast, episode number 35, my interview with Mercedes Samudio, author of the book, Shame-Proof Parenting, a #1 Amazon bestseller, and also an International Book Award finalist. We talk about what is parent shaming, and also how parents can find their own voice and their own unique voice next on the podcast.
Welcome to the No Sitting on the Sideline Dad podcast, a podcast about a journey of discovery and conversations about not sitting on the sideline of life. Let's get involved. Here's host Joe Foley.
Welcome to the podcast. Again, my name is Joe Foley, and I really want to say thank you for being here. I know as a dad, a parent, and a crazy busy adult, we're very busy people. And you taking time to listen, I appreciate it. And if this is your first time, hey, thank you. Welcome. This will be a weekly podcast dedicated to sense of community. The reason why I'm laughing is I want to be a weekly podcast, but I'm trying to be more consistent. But I want to be a weekly podcast. There'll be a topic about being a dad, a parent, and a well-rounded individual. How do you benefit from listening to this podcast? Well, we're all on a journey of discovery. This is my journey, and I'm trying to find answers. Being a recent divorced dad, I don't have the answers. Or just being a parent, I don't have the answers. It's funny when you're younger, you think, I got all the answers, and when you get older, you're going, no, I don't. We're all going through some issues. Similar issues, some kind of same issues, or maybe just issues that we all can relate to. That's why I want to build this sense of community. What I mean is, I want to talk to you. If you want to talk to me, you can talk to me. My contact information will be all found at nosittingonthesideline.com/contact. Leave a message in the show notes. Or, hey, right-hand corner from the website. See that switch right there? Yeah, that one right there. That one is SpeedPipe. Leave a message. Say hello. Say, I love the podcast, or just want to say, hey, Joe, you're doing a good job, or hey, Joe, you can work on this, or just reach out on social media. You can find all of my social media contact. And when I just mentioned about where you can connect to me with others, my email, my social media, and nosittingonthesideline.com/contact. I love being a dad and a parent. I know this is not an easy job. And it's one of those jobs that you go, hey, I didn't realize I signed up for this. But, I really look back at it as in the sense that it is a good job. It's a job that, I hate saying a job, but it's kind of a mission. You want to put it in kind of the sense of, any sci-fi fans, mission, or I'm on a quest. The quest of my son to be a great man when he gets older. I have no idea if that's going to happen or not, but being a parent, I'm doing the best I can because there's no owner manual. And then it's a journey of discovery. And, I'm not an expert. I'm just like you, a dad or a mom, or like I said, a person trying to get through this world. And I just want to know how I can contribute to the world so I can make it a better place. Next up, my interview with Mercedes Samudio, the author of the book, Shame-Proof Parenting. I thought about this for a minute. We're going to jump in the interview in a second, but I just thought about a couple stories I was thinking about while recording this episode. And we've all done it. We're all saying, hey, I can't believe that mom gave the kid a bag of Doritos, and I would never let my kid do that. Well, you're in the grocery store. The kid's having a mental breakdown, and you only now 2. Oh, how are you going to get through aisle 13 and get out the checkout without imploding? Yep. You'll probably give them the Doritos too. I can remember when Sean's mom was pregnant with Sean, and when we think about all the things that go around shopping on, I'll never let my kid do that. I was parent shaming. Didn't really think much of it. But now in this interview, Mercedes, I really thought about more and how much I actually do it. I actually got parent shamed just the other day myself. I was in the laundromat because, recent divorced dad. I don't have a laundry facility in my apartment. So the other weekend, I got to take Sean to the laundromat. I walk in, I can see them all looking at him. Oh my goodness. 4.5 people walked in. The place is going to turn into a zoo. So as the afternoon go on, it takes about an hour and a half. And when it's time to fold the clothes, I got to keep him busy. At the time, I have my iPad. I give it to him. Let him watch a video, whatever he wants, some kind of video, cartoon he wants. As soon as I give my iPad to my son, I can see the judgmental eyes looking at me. Maybe just me, but I thought it looking at me going, I just been parent shamed. Oh, it'd take me 12 minutes to fold the laundry or an hour doing it if I got to chase him around with 5 seconds. You got to do what you got to do as a parent, I guess. Because you know what? At the end, it will really matter if he works extra 10 minutes of video so you can get through what you need to get through. So it's an interesting topic. We all have our different ways of doing it. I guess unique voice, or we're all on this journey of being a parent. 'Cause you know what? At the end, we just hope we didn't mess up too much. So Mercedes helps parents find their own unique voice and helps shame-proof relationships and help them make it a little better. So let's jump right into the interview. Today on the podcast, my guest, Mercedes Samudio, an Amazon bestseller and award-winning book, Shaming-Proof Parenting, and parenting coach, and the founder of ShameProofParenting.com. Welcome to the podcast, Mercedes.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe.
Thank you. I just want to ask some questions. I did my homework because I want to make sure I had a good interview tonight. And I know that you're a self-proclaimed geek. I remember reading that.
Yes.
So I'm a geek myself. So what do you geek out on? What is your thing you'd like to do?
Oh, man. I guess I like geeking out on Harry Potter stuff, the Marvel cinematic movies, and anything in the Josh Whedon TV universe.
Josh Whedon, is that
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel? Yeah.
I admit it. I'm a dude, and I watched it too, so that's okay.
Nice.
That's why I recognized the name. I thought it was funny. I'm like, Josh Whedon, that sounds very familiar.
Yes. All
right. Well, I was wondering, can you tell a little bit about yourself and where you, how did you get started doing in your website stuff? How did you get started?
Sure. So I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I started doing this work, I'd say over a decade ago, working with teen parents. And as I got more into this work with family systems and how families come together, I really started to have a passion and a heart for not just families, but how parents really come into their identity. How do they go from being humans who didn't have to take care of anybody other than themselves and maybe a partner, to now having to take care of a small child and watch this child grow into an adult themselves. And so over the past 3 years now, I've really been focusing on working with parents specifically as a coach, not as a therapist, and really helping parents to feel more confident in their parenting strategies, as well as in developing a healthy identity for themselves as a parent.
I got to know, because like I told you before, the reason why I wanted to have you on tonight is, what is shaming parenting? What is that all about?
Yes. So one of the things that I noticed in all of my work when I would work with parents is that many parents felt like they were being judged or shamed for the parenting decisions they were making by people who really didn't want to take the time to understand how they came to those decisions or why the parent was making those decisions. And I realized that this was a common theme for, I would say, 90 to 95% of my parents who would come to me, whether it be through coming to me as looking for help as a client, or even just other people who knew the work that I did and would just share with me stories of what happened to them when they would try to raise their child in public or raise their child while others were present. They would just tell me stories about shame and how people would just judge them. And then, go ahead.
No, I can see that happening. I feel the same. I have a 4-year-old son myself, and I'm out in the public, and I'm like, and I'm like, I grabbed by his hand or something. I'm like, and they're all looking at me like, why'd you do that for? I'm like, I feel like they're judging me.
Yes. And I feel like, with the advent, or I would say maybe the advancement of social media, I feel like shaming has gotten worse. Whereas before, maybe someone would just kind of scowl at you or shake their head at you. Now I feel like people take it to social media. So people will post online, they'll take pictures, they'll take videos of parents. I know for a fact celebrities get it quite a bit. Anytime a celebrity parent posts something online, people are blasting them for, you shouldn't raise your kid like that. You shouldn't give them that type of food. You shouldn't let them do this. And I feel like social media has made the idea of shaming parents a lot more prevalent and a lot more salient. People feel very bold in doing it now.
Well, it seems like people can hide behind an avatar.
Yes, exactly.
It's interesting too. When you see the celebrities online, you see all their good stuff, what they're doing, and probably just like me and every other parent.
Correct. I 100% agree with you. I remember there was this one picture of Charlize Theron, who's an actress, and she was trying to, I guess, deal with her 4-year-old or her toddler while they were out. And the picture that the paparazzi captured of her was her kind of bent over with a very mean look on her face, holding the child down in the street. And of course, everyone was like, oh my gosh, she's so abusive. Oh, she doesn't know how to raise her kids. And it was just this big thing where the paparazzi, the photographer, only captured that 1 second of this mother who, again, we know her as Charlize Theron, this amazing actress. But at that moment, she was just being a mom of a toddler. She wasn't being an actress. She wasn't on, she wasn't performing. She was just trying to get her child out of the street, I assume, and to their car. And it just kind of struck me as something that we tend to do quite a bit in our culture, which is we take a snapshot of what we see of somebody and we blow it out of proportion, or we really kind of feel like we need to judge it and shame it. And I feel like that happens so much for parents nowadays.
Can you give me a story of a parent shaming, something that you dealt with before?
So as a parent coach, I'm not a parent myself, but a lot of the times I get these stories. I mean, people just share with me stories because they know about my book. They know about my in parent shaming hashtag. One that I can actually tell you about that kind of happened recently, someone shared with me, is they had decided to take their child out to the movies for the first time. And they wanted, the son, I think, was about 8, no, maybe younger than that, maybe 7 or 8. And so this was his first time going to the movies because he has some developmental disabilities that kind of made him really hypersensitive to loud noises and lots of people. But the child really wanted to see Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man that came out. So, of course, she was like, all right, let's try it. Let's see how you do. And mom went during the day when she didn't think there were going to be that many people around. She thought it would be kind of a nicer experience for him to go maybe at 11 or 12 o'clock show during the week. So, of course, she goes. There were a nice amount of people there, but her son got very agitated. The noise and the darkness, and there were too many people and too many smells. And he kind of got agitated and had a tantrum in the movie, right when it was starting. And a couple people, made those snide comments. Oh, you should have brought your kid to the movie if he couldn't sit down, or, just things like that. And she said that she felt so ashamed because no one knew that for him, this was his first time trying something out like this. And it was hard for him. And of course, they ended up leaving. And, she said that when it came out on DVD, they would watch it. But I remember just her telling me the story and saying, I feel so bad because I would love for people to have more empathy for kids who maybe can't deal with all of the sensory things that go on when they go to a movie theater, or like how she wished there would be maybe a movie theater that could be useful for children who had developmental disabilities or who had sensory issues, who could actually enjoy the movie theater. And so I share that story because I think sometimes when we are kind of taken out of our comfort zone, or when we are feeling discomfort, we have a tendency to shame or judge people, especially when it's a parent with a child. And I feel like this mom's story really echoes and is kind of a personification of the shame that I see across the board with parents just trying to raise their kids and people making judgments about them without really knowing the full picture of this parent or this child's journey.
I have to say that I am guilty of doing that myself. I'll be honest. I'm gone.
Yeah.
My son was, when he was born, I'm thinking to myself, he's a baby, going to watch other parents going around going, I'm not going to do that. What is he doing that for? And then think about it. There's no manual. It's like whatever you think is right.
Yes. Yes. And then too, I think children are human just like us. So they're very variable. So we might think, okay, I'm looking at another parent. I'm not going to do that with my kid. But when you have a kid, you have no idea what type of person you're going to bring into the world. You don't know what their identity is going to be, their behaviors, their personality. So on one end, it might be easy to say, I'm not going to do that, or I would have done that better. But on the other hand, you never know who you're going to have in your home, who you're going to have to be raising. So I think it's really important that as we look at other parents who are trying to raise children, that we really think back, okay, maybe I wouldn't have done it that way. Maybe I wouldn't have said those things to my child. Maybe I wouldn't have, brought my child to this theater, but this parent made a choice, and maybe it didn't play out the way the parent wanted it to, but they made a choice. And to be empathetic to the fact that, like you just said, there's no manual. Parenting is definitely a trial and error journey. You try things, you see how it goes. If it completely blows up, you're like, all right, we got to do that differently. But if you try it and it goes well, then you're like, all right, I'm glad we tried it. Now we know we can do this together. And I feel like when you shame parents, you really rob them of those trial and error moments where they get to see, can me and my child do this together? Can my child and I figure this out together? Well, when you shame or judge parents, they don't get the chance to do that because they're so fearful of the shame.
I can see that. I can see that too. I brought my son into we actually moved there himself, and all of a sudden he didn't want to be there and started yelling, and because again, it was just too loud for him, and people look at me, but
yes.
Get him out of the situation. I'm over my shoulder, carrying him out, going, I'm out of here. Let's go.
Right. Right.
I'll see you later on Redbox or something.
Right. But again, here's the deal. You got to try that. You got to take him and see, okay, can he deal with this? If not, then, maybe he's not old enough to do it yet. Maybe this is not the right time. Maybe this is not the right movie. But because you got to try it, you got to see what could your kid handle at the time and what could you handle at the time. And I think the more we allow parents to do that, and the more we give them support and empathy, and the more we listen to their stories, the more I think parents will take those type of risks to see, okay, how does my child operate? I was reading a post the other day. Someone was saying that, helicopter parenting cost us a lot because you have to pay for a babysitter because you can't let your kids do anything without somebody judging them. And I feel like that's very true, which is because of the way we judge parents now, parents really don't know how to just trust their intuition. They don't know how to just say, okay, son, go down the street and play with their friends and then come back at a certain time, because someone might call child services on them and say that they're unsupervising their child. So it's such a shaming culture, such a judgmental culture that I think we have now for parents, that it's even hard sometimes to let our kids figure things out because someone might mistake it for neglect or abuse.
I'm curious. I'm not even sure. What is helicopter parenting anyways? I have a weird. Yeah. What is that?
It's a term that's used for a parent who kind of is always hovering like a helicopter, right? They're always hovering over their child to make sure their child doesn't get hurt, that their child is safe, that their child makes the right decision. So they're just kind of always around.
I guess you kind of robbed them, like you said, robbed them of exploring and learning.
Yes.
Learning life skills, because
yes,
I can remember when I was young in first grade, me and my buddies would ride up the streets of the local school and play baseball first, second grade.
Yes.
Yeah, you do that now, you're going to have the cops called on you.
Right. And I think that's where helicopter parenting has started to kind of emerge, because if you would do that now, let's say your kid is 8 or 9, anything could happen to your child. And if something happens, whether it be something dangerous like abduction or your kid gets into trouble, people are going to be pointing the finger at you saying, Joe, what kind of parent are you? You're a horrible parent. You should have been watching your kid. And from that moment on, you don't let your kid out of your sight because you don't want to be judged. You don't want to be shamed for letting your kid out of your sight for long enough to ride their bike down to the local school and getting into trouble. So I think when we create a village around children and families, those type of incidents don't happen, because when we see a child getting into trouble, we don't say, shame on your mom and dad. We say, hey, young man, what are you doing? Are you supposed to be doing that? Did your parents tell you do that? Just like when I was a kid, if I was out in the neighborhood and someone saw me doing something I wasn't supposed to do, the first thing they would say is, are you supposed to be doing that? Where are you supposed to be right now? And I would have to be like, oh, I'm supposed to be at the park. Well, why are you over here at the store? Does your parent know you're here? If they don't, we'll take you home and make sure your parents know what you've done. They wouldn't go to my mom and say, you're a horrible parent, you let your kid go. They would go to her and say, hey, I don't know what you let her do, but she was over here and she was supposed to be there. And then me and my mom would deal with it. And I think there has to be like this village where we don't blame parents for everything that children do, and we don't condemn kids for everything that they do, but we allow our parents and our children to really figure things out with a space of empathy, a space of caring, a space of, hey, you guys tried it, didn't work out, your kid made the wrong decision, do you need some help? It didn't work out, mom and dad, do you need some support? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, actually. It's almost like I feel like sometimes other parents and just don't want to get involved. They see a kid, see a kid out in the playground. They rather just call the cops. They don't want to call the authorities. They don't want to get involved.
Yep. And I feel like that's something that's so different than probably when you and I were growing up, because people would get involved. People would make sure that we were okay at home. People would make sure, that I was okay, even if I wasn't their kid, and it wouldn't be about bashing my mom and her parenting. It would just be about, are you guys okay?
I had an interesting question. Maybe this is a good transition. I was wondering about finding a unique parenting voice. What's that all about?
Yeah. So something else that I noticed that has happened over the past decade, if you will, to parenting is that parents feel the need sometimes to use other people's ideals and other people's strategies to really validate who they are as a parent. And what I really help my parents do as a coach and through my book is to really figure out, who are you? I mentioned earlier in our chat about having your own parenting identity. And I feel like a parenting identity is the same thing as a gender identity, as a sexual identity, as something that you have to come into. You have to really understand who it is, what it is, why it is, and how you want to express it in the world. And I think that while parenting strategies are very helpful and very useful in a family, especially if there's a lot of chaos and a lot of disruption, I feel like it's equally important for a parent to know who they are. So as they're using these parenting strategies, they're really infusing their unique voice and their unique identity in how they're implementing these strategies in their home. It's not just do what Joe says because Joe has the 5 steps to raising a perfect kid, but it's taking what Joe says and saying, okay, Joe says do X, Y, and Z. In my home, we believe this. How do I merge these two ideas together so we create a home that feels unique to us, a home that allows each of us to grow and each of us to have our own personal identities and our needs and wants met?
I also was wondering, too, since we get a little pause, we can transition. What is it? I noticed also you have a YouTube or a video channel about Family Couch.
I do. So the Family Couch was something that I kind of that evolved from me doing parenting summits. So I've done about 2 or 3 parenting summits where I have an online event where parenting experts come in and I interview them and I talk to them about various parenting topics. And I really love that. But that event sometimes takes way too much time and it's very condensed into a few weeks. And I really wanted to have something that was similar to that, but where I released 1 episode a week so people could really watch that episode and digest what was going on. So the Family Couch is a series of discussions for parents and professionals to talk about what's going on in our families, what's going on in our world, how are families and parents really interacting with each other in this world, and how are professionals there to help that process along.
I did watch some of the first beginning, and I thought it was very, very well done. I thought the videos were really good. And that was very interesting. I was like, oh, she has that too, a book and a video too.
Thank you.
I thought it was really cool. What about parenting coaching? And this is the first time. I mean, you got a coaching, a life coach. You got all these kind of coaches. What is parent coaching? Parenting coaching.
It's literally what it sounds like. So it's really providing a healthy space for parents to figure out what I've been talking about this whole time, which is figure out their parenting voice, figure out their parenting identity. So I coach them, right? I get their information. I figure out who they are. I figure out the goals and the visions they have for their family and their parenting. And then I really come alongside them and guide them on how they can begin to express those things in their family in a healthy way. So again, most parents come in and say, oh, I want my kids to listen. I want my kids to do their chores. I want my kids to do better in school. I'm worried about my kids and peers. A big one that's happened over the past couple of years is I want my kids to, be more healthy on social media and with their technology. And so with all of those concerns, we really look into what is the parent's best vision for their family? What is the goal? What would they like to really happen? And then we talk about some of those nuances. So when we have a kid that listens, how do we want them to listen? Do we want them to be a complacent listener where they don't think, they don't talk back, they don't have any say? Or do we want them to be a really active listener where they hear what you're saying, but they're able to kind of express themselves and express some of their concerns or some of their questions about what you're saying in a respectful way? And what I notice is that parents really appreciate being able to talk about some of those nuanced things with someone who's not their kid or not their spouse, because they are able to kind of play in the vastness of that, all the different options that come with how do I get my kid to listen? How do I get my kid to do what I think is best for them? How do I do that in a way that doesn't crush their spirit, but really helps them to come into a really healthy adult identity?
It's interesting. It just made me think about something for a second. Like my son, he's 4, and he's like the friendliest person, the most outgoing person in the world. And he'll say hi to strangers driving down the road, and I'm like, John, everybody can know, but there's no way back. I mean, it's funny with the pressures of the world and society nowadays with social media, and he gets to go into school, and people are going to start getting into cliques and stuff. How do you keep any suggestion to keep that, like that enthusiasm for being so outgoing?
Yeah, I think one of the things is to really kind of allow them to be outgoing in a healthy way. So one of the things that I tell a lot of my parents to do is to allow your kid to be enthusiastic with you. Show them, kind of with you how happy you are that they are so outgoing and enthusiastic. Give them opportunities to show that in a healthy way. So at 4, he can do little stage plays at school, or he can put on little shows at home. As he gets older, really showing him that being extroverted is okay, but at the same time understanding that there are other people too. Some people are not going to be as extroverted as you. Some people aren't going to talk the same way as you. Some people are going to be extroverted, but they're going to be a lot more quiet in their personality than you. And just really being able to point that out. One way I really like doing it too with smaller kids is through TV shows or through the characters that they listen to. So like if you have a kid that really is into a certain cartoon show, going through all the characters with them and pointing out the different personality traits in that character. So which character says hi to everybody? Oh, he does, Dad. Which character doesn't always talk and is kind of grumpy sometimes? Oh, that character. Which character always makes kind of not so great decisions and doesn't really listen all the time? Oh, that character. So your kid begins to start to see differences in people. And again, some of it's developmental. So some of it he'll just start to understand as he gets older, as he gets around more peers. But I think you can really create that safe space for your child, whether it be for you or anyone who's listening, by allowing them to have those safe moments where they can talk to you about it with you, where you can showcase it in the different things that you do throughout the day. Instead of saying, you don't have to wave everybody because everyone won't wave back. You can say something like, that was really nice of you to wave. How did you feel when they didn't wave back? And to kind of get them to start thinking about how they feel and tuning into what's going on for them too.
That makes a lot of sense. And then that makes I totally agree with that. Another thing I'd like to maybe transition to about your website and courses. What is your website about and your courses? I know you have a bunch of courses. Books and blogs and everything.
Yes. So my website is shameproofparenting.com. It is the name of my branding, the name of my organization, my business, as well as the name of my book. And on my website, I have links to all of my social media. So I'm pretty much everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those places. And then I also have blogs. I also have video blogs. I have access to my family couch show. So there's a link there. And you can also go to my online store where, yes, I have books, the book that I mentioned, as well as my first ebook talking about homework and how to help your child do the homework battle that a lot of parents go through. I have webinars on there, as well as courses and coaching for professionals and parents as well.
Well, that's a lot of really good material there.
Thank you.
Wrapping up, I would say final thoughts. What are your final thoughts for parents and where they? Obviously, I know where they can find you, but final thoughts.
Sure. So I would say if you're listening to this and you're thinking, how can I, really understand more about my parenting identity or some of the stuff that we talked about, I would say 2 things. Number one, my book, Shameproof Parenting, is a great way to kind of get a great overview of this idea of finding your unique voice and your identity as a parent, as well as reach out to me, talk to me. I'm very social. I answer all of my Facebook and Twitter messages. I answer all of my emails myself. I haven't gotten so big where I have, assistant assistant to answer everything for me. So if you have any questions about what you've heard today or my website or anything that you've read about me, feel free to reach out and just ask me and talk to me.
I'll have links to all the links in the show notes about your website and links to all your social media in the show notes, so people can reach out to you.
Awesome. That's great.
Well, thank you, Mercedes. Thank you very much for being on the podcast today. And thank you again. Really, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's all I have for this episode. I want to say thank you for joining me on the No Sitting on the Sideline tab podcast. You can find all the show notes for this episode over at nosittingonthesideline.com/35. You can find more about Mercedes and her book and services over at shameproofparenting.com. All the links will be in the show notes for this episode. Please comment on the podcast. Leave in a comment in the show notes or head over to Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review. The link is for the Apple Podcast. It's nosittingonthesideline.com/Apple Podcast. Just if you want to make comments, hello, how you doing? Or if you want to contribute and start a conversation what we talked about today. All comments help improve the show, and I like talking to you, meeting new people. It's fun. If you'd like to help, another thing I'd like to help support the show. I mean, you're going to do Christmas shopping anyways. So in the show notes will be an Amazon affiliate link. Just click on the link and it'll bring you to Amazon. There's no cost for you. Just if you're going to go shopping, you're going to pay what you're going to pay on Amazon. It's kind of a referral link, and they give you a little kickback, a little percentage, or if you're in any little bit helps support the show or the media hosts and stuff like that. I really would appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. You know what? I really enjoyed connecting with you. Until next time, have fun getting involved with your children. Give them a hug. Just listen. Be surprised when this stuff comes from my son's mouth. You'd be surprised what they say. Take care. God bless. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Please subscribe to the newsletter to receive updates of the show and helpful and useful tips. This has been a production of Foley 42 Media.